Descolonizarte Teatro is a professional organization committed to promoting the Latin American experience through theater. Nadia Garzón, executive director of the organization, is here to discuss the role the arts have in empowering immigrant communities. Hi, thank you so much for being here. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and the organization?
Hi, sure. So my name is Nadia Garzón. I am the founder and executive director of Descolonizarte Teatro, and we're a professional theater organization, and we work at the intersection of immigrant, Latinx, and LGBTQ+.
How was the organization formed?
Well, this organization is like my baby, but I gathered a group of people and I told them, I have this idea, this is my baby, but it will be raised by a village and you will be my village. So it comes about to help us fulfill a need for more Latinx theater, more theater in Spanish, and also for spaces where we can actually have a place for Latinx artists also to gather and get together. We don't have a physical space, but we provide these opportunities in other ways.
How would you define decolonization?
Decolonization is really important for us, as our name says it, right? So it's Descolonizarte Teatro, which comes from the word decolonize yourself or decolonizing you, if you translate it literally. And for us, decolonization is a process and also an attempt to return to our roots and also to reframe and retell the stories that have been told about ourselves, our bodies, our knowledge, our history, right? In the process of decolonizing ourselves, we are retelling, reframing these stories and not just believing or retelling the stories that have been told about ourselves by other people. In the case of immigrants in the United States, many times this is tainted with white supremacy. So we're trying to stay away from that and those stereotypes and kind of telling the world, this is who we are in reality and these are the things that you don't know about us.
How is this manifested through your performances and educational programs?
Yeah, so through our educational programming and also our performances, we're trying to tell that new story, right? We're trying to showcase our lived experiences, also to process our experiences, and also to show the world things that they haven't seen about us. So we focus mainly on Latin American theater when we are performing. We also use something that is called devised theater, which means that we create that without a script. And so that means that it's coming from ourselves to kind of showcase it in the world and show our experiences to the world. And so this is kind of how it manifests in this idea that the space is for us to really be in charge of our narrative.
How does decolonization lead to the empowerment of immigrants in communities such as Central Florida?
Yeah, so like I said before, most of the stories that we've heard about Latinos or Latinx and people of color or immigrants in particular are stories that are tainted by white supremacy. So the empowerment that comes from opposing that narrative and from correcting that narrative is really important because we can truly be ourselves. When you're here as an immigrant, a lot of the times the options that you have for survival is kind of just like blending in. And that means leaving your culture to the side, or sometimes even saying, oh, that culture is not as important because what I need to survive is this other culture or this other language, or I need to behave in this other way. And so through this process, what we get to do is that we get to appreciate our culture and also get to understand that we don't have to leave our culture, right? That we need to create a world where we can be ourselves and still be connected to our roots and be respected and be honored instead of being discriminated against.
In the process of trying to honor your culture and find yourself, how do you fit in with the community that you're in when they're trying to push you into another direction and to assimilate to their culture?
Yeah, so here is where we perhaps find allyship, right? So we may be able to find some allies who also want to honor our culture, who are also interested in our language, who also are interested in our practices. So that's one way to do it. And when the people are not interested in this, I think it's just a matter of calling in, right? Like we are going to have to step up and just kind of fight against the pressure of not being ourselves and kind of step up and call them in and say, hey, by the way, look at this. Maybe you have never thought of the fact that Latinx people do this or are actually important because of this other thing, instead of the negative stereotypes that you might have. So it's not an easy process, and it's definitely not easy if the majority culture is not open to seeing that. But I think that when you do it for yourself, that's where we can start making the change.
And where it got me thinking about that was the workplace. Mm-hmm. And what if someone is introverted, working in a workplace where most of the people are extrovert, and they want that person to be the same way? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's not culture, but it is, actually it could be culture.
It could be.
It could be, because, you know, like I went to Taiwan, and most of the individuals there are quiet, mm-hmm. reserved. They're not loud, and they found Americans to be very loud. You know, like you see the clash of culture mm-hmm. there. If you're here in the workplace and you have, I guess, mostly loud Americans, and you have someone who's probably from Taiwan working in that environment, mm-hmm. the pressure probably on that person to be more loud mm-hmm. could be a conflict of cultures.
Absolutely. There's pressure, and there's also, like I said, survival, right? Sometimes, like, we don't get to get away with certain things. We have to fit into whatever the culture is expecting. Otherwise, it can be terrible. Like, you can lose your job, right? Mm-hmm. Or maybe they don't call you again for something that you're doing. So it's a difficult process, and it doesn't mean that it's going to happen overnight. But I think one of the focuses here is to become aware of the fact that it's happening. Right? Mm-hmm. Then it becomes my choice, instead of like just kind of going into the world and taming who I am culturally. I can go into the world and make those choices consciously. That doesn't mean that it's a good thing that we have to make those choices. Hopefully we wouldn't, but at least when we start by ourselves, we're able to recognize that, and then we're able to become more of who we are. Attached to our traditions, to our roots, to our culture, instead of becoming who a society wants us to become and kind of forgetting about all of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. If you're doing it, knowing that you're doing it, you could preserve who you really are. Yes. Rather than if you're doing it not knowing that you're doing it, then you could lose yourself.
Exactly. And once you do it because you're making choices, then it's easier for us to start making a change outside of ourselves. Mm-hmm. This is why it's important for us, decolonization, when it comes to like our person and doing it ourselves, and why we think that arts are the way to do it. It gives us a platform and an opportunity to become really aware of these things. But many of us have internalized this, and we believe it. Right? All of these stereotypes that we hear about our community or our race, we start repeating them, we start believing them, and some people may even start acting them up because it's like, it doesn't matter anymore. That's what they're going to see, mm-hmm. right? So we're trying to work against that. And we do so through theater, through arts, and through really telling our own stories and kind of connecting with ourselves once again.
What are some examples of classes and performances you've held in the past?
Yeah, so we have our productions that are scheduled throughout the year. So we offer programming throughout the year that Descolonizarte Teatro does as its own organization. But we also work in collaboration with different organizations. And so we've had several plays in the past, and we've had several projects. But some examples of those are the Pride of Hope at the Hope Community Center. We were one of the organizations that supported that effort. And so that was beautiful to work with other organizations that are also conscientious and are doing something to make the world a better place for everybody. So that's an example. We also offer free workshops for the community. So they're open to the community. They're in Spanish with English translation as needed. And it's just a space for people to get together and work on some of the skills and talents that we find in something like theater. We also work with organizations like Q Latinx, where we did Teatro Queer, and we're about to start it again. And that's a space for us to process our experiences as LGBTQ individuals here in Central Florida through the use of theater. So we have lots of different things that we do. We're getting ready for our next performance with Descolonizarte Teatro. And what we perform different plays. Again, we mostly focus on that next play so that we are seeing things that are ours and tell our stories, and that are in our language too, even though sometimes we provide translation.
Is there anything else that you would like to share with our viewers?
Well, I think I would like to remind everybody of the importance of supporting the arts, right? Sometimes we're like, oh, there's nothing to do, but then if you don't go out and support, then it will be hard for us to keep going. One thing that is very interesting about Descolonizarte Teatro is that besides decolonization, we also focus on accessibility so that anyone, regardless of their income, can come watch a play or can experience art, because a lot of the times art becomes something that is related to social class, right? If you don't have the money to take 4 people, your family or your partner or whatever, then you don't get to go. So we offer affordable and free programming throughout the year. So this is important. This is important for people to know, but also important for people to support us. I also want to mention that there is no Latinx theater space that I know of here in Central Florida. So that's also another goal that we have, is to have our own space. It's very difficult to have a theater company without space. And so we would love to have a space that's Latinx, that we can focus on the Latinx community, that we can open up to other groups, and also that perhaps has that intersection with LGBTQ+ organizations, so we all can take advantage of a space that we can call our home.
And how can someone learn more or stay in touch?
Well, I think the best way is probably through our social media. We are on Facebook and on Instagram. You can find us as Descolonizarte Teatro, and you can find us both on Instagram and Facebook, and that's where you can see most of the information that will come up. We also have a website, but I think a lot of people just stay on social media, and that's what keeps everything up to date.
All right, well, thank you so much for joining us today and for what you're doing. It's really great that you're reaching out to the community in that way. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Emily, for having me.
Thank you. If you're enjoying this show, please subscribe to our channel and follow our Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter accounts.